Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'll keep this one brief because I'll do a more detailed video on these in the future, but I just wanted to show off a bunch of fake opal. Now by fake opal you can mean a lot of things. People have a lot of different definitions and that's one of the tricky parts to all of this. This is synthetic opal, but it's not just one type of synthetic opal. Behind me you'll see these little beads. These are a second type. These are the two most often talked about types of opal when people mention fake opal. So this one here is a resin stabilized silica. If I flip it over, you'll see bellow opal, but you'll see this stuff called so many different names, which also muddies the water. In essence, what we're looking at here is something that has resin involved, something that doesn't have resin involved. This is the true synthetic opal just back here. You would have heard it referred to as Gilson opal and a bunch of other things, but in essence, you're looking at resin, no resin. And these ones aren't just pure resin, so these are only 20% or so resin. You can see that here. So they've got a little bit of a weaker heat resistance. They're definitely nowhere near as hard. I think it's on here. Yeah, so hardness of a 4. We all know that opal is more up there towards the 6. So it is much softer because the resin itself is not very hard and it's softening the entire stone in the end, because it is pretty evenly distributed amongst the silica. I'm going to chuck it in the lab and I'm going to do a bunch of stuff with it as well, just to show how easy it is to tell the stuff apart. Telling this apart from the standard opal is much more difficult because it is just pure silica, but the thing is that it's so pure that I should be able to tell it apart because it's not going to have any of the other impurities in it. None of the natural impurities, and that will be a dead giveaway. I will just say, I'm sure many of you get this as well if you put yourself out there as a bit of a person that knows opal. As a opal YouTuber, I get so many photos and videos sent to me with opals of people just saying, I don't know much about opal, but I've been handed this from my grandfather or something like that, and can you tell me something about it? And a lot of the time, unfortunately, it comes out as being this material right here. And how do I know that? Well, I've got the entire catalogue of it now. You can see here, that's OP1. And they are now up to OP92, and look at that, they've got plans for more. So there's going to be 104 recipes on this card at some point, and I've got their current 92. And some of these, I've got to say, where is the market for some of this? Because some of it is absolutely disgusting looking. Like, who wants, I don't know, vomit green with green speckle? Or slightly blue speckle? There's some that look a little bit more realistic, like you've got a nice black opal mimicking kind of thing there. I'm sure most of these, they just don't sell. I can't see anyone buying them. Like even ones like this is actually the one that I like the most, I think, 89. So it's a real dark body tone opal with a little bit of red twinkle in it. But I mean, look above it, what the hell is that monstrosity? Purple and red? Like purple body tone? It's just silly, some of these. But if you've seen jewelry online, people carve rings out of these and all sorts and then sell them for way more than I can tolerate. And unfortunately they do call it opal, and this stuff, should we call it opal at all? Even synthetic opal, just because it's resin stabilized, it's really 1/5 resin, so it's hard to really give it the term opal in my mind, but people do. And I will admit, some of them do look kind of okay, but some of them just have really strange body tones. When there's a strange body tone like that, I am not a fan. But anyway, you can have a bit of a look at this. I want to put this out there because a lot of these people I can now redirect to having a look at this video and just using their own eyes, arming them with knowledge. It's much better because a lot of the time when they send me photos and videos, I can't really tell at all. But with something like this, give them a couple different angles, show them the color play, should help a lot of people identify it themselves. So they don't need to send me a grainy picture that's kind of like this. I get a lot of these ones and say, is that real opal? And it's like, well, yeah, it could be. But yeah, we'll just let everyone have a good look. Now this stuff back here is what I'm more interested in. So this is the real synthetic opal. These are, in essence, opal. They're just man-made. So this is the diamond, man-made diamond equivalent. Now unfortunately I could only get them in these small beads. I'm not going to be forking out thousands of dollars for larger ones because this stuff is surprisingly expensive. So I'm not fueling that industry very much. This is the one and only time I'm going to buy them. and it's just so that I've got record of them. You can see here, this is actually numbered up to 14, I believe. Yeah, so there's 14 of these no resin ones, which I'm going to also take to the lab and just make sure that I can tell them apart from the other opals, standard opals. A lot of them, they're just they look a lot like a crystal clean blue seems to be the easiest color for them to produce. But you'll also see they've got some really dark black body tone ones as well. Of course they do, because that's the one that would probably be able to con people the easiest, unfortunately, and that's probably a good chunk of the market of this. But yeah, these are much better. They're much more natural looking. The patterns themselves are much more realistic. Way less uniform. I thought they would be a little bit more uniform, but it's hard to tell because they're in 3mm beads. But yeah, this stuff, a lot of the time, unfortunately, when you've got it in hand and it's just a small piece, it can be quite difficult to tell them apart from a real opal. Definitely not impossible, but I just want to check them in the lab and just make sure that I can 100% get a nice, clean and easy way of doing it without destroying the pieces. That one there is particularly good. So yeah, hopefully that's a little bit informative and people can have a quick look at a video like this. I'll be sending it to people constantly when they ask me a question about whether their opal is real or not. I'll just say, can you see it in any of these 100? Because it looks to me to be a resin based stone. Just do one last good pan through. I mean, there are so many. These ones are not confusing anyone, but some of these other ones might. There's a pretty good one there. I've got some Cuba Pedy that look exactly like that. Maybe less uniform color play, but they've got the body tone and some of the colors pretty much spot on. So yeah, some of those ones are looking pretty good. And then pretty garbage. These pink ones, that is mental. I think on Opal auctions, I read once on there identifying fake opals. They were saying something along the lines of this being the most common, the no resin, the resin-free Gilson. But to be honest, I see this like in the shops just down the street. I can go there and I think the post office has them. There's a lot of like earrings, studs, belly button piercings, all of these little piercing things that always have something like this blue body toned opal. So I see this stuff way more, and I see it way more online now as well. So it's hugely cheaper. You can buy this in slabs for absolutely nothing. These are way more expensive. I don't even know if they sell them in big slabs. They're that expensive. You are actually much better off just buying a bunch of opal rough and carving it yourself with a couple cheap tools than purchasing this stuff in prefabricated pieces. Whereas this stuff, a slab, couple of bucks, it's really not a problem. And then you can carve whatever you want, and people seem to like making rings out of them, though I would imagine they would still be fairly fragile, though they are pretty soft, so maybe they're flexible. Not sure, not something I'm that interested in, but being a Opal education channel, gotta have it, gotta help the people. So I'll see you in the next one. Hope that will be of some assistance in the years to come. I'm sure I'll be using it and referencing it a lot. Like I said, I'll take them to the lab, get more details, do a full report, and a bit more of a detailed guide on each of these independently, which might provide a bit more clarity. Catch you guys in the next one, carving something hopefully pretty exciting, most likely from Pulitzer.